You are listening to A Path to New You, a podcast about mental health, veterans issues, current events, and much more. My goal is to educate those who listen on different topics related to mental health issues, self care, veterans issues, and more. S- I'll have guests on this co. I'll have guests and co-hosts throughout this podcast. My guests and co-hosts will have experience or specialize in topics that I will be discussing throughout. I do have a Facebook page for this podcast, also called A Path to a New You, where I post self-care ideas. I post a link to this podcast when I have a new podcast episode up. And I also will eventually start posting questions and stuff. I'm hoping to get more people involved, more people to like the Facebook page. I'm also trying to get more people to listen to this podcast. You can find this podcast only on Spotify at the moment. You don't have to have a premium subscription for Spotify. You just log into an account, make an account with your email and password and whatnot. So you don't need a premium. So there are free accounts to listen to this podcast. It's on Spotify. Um, so in Madison, Wisconsin, that's where I'm located. I am also a therapist. I run my own private practice. It's New Beginnings Counseling LLC. There is a New Beginnings Counseling Center here in Madison as well. That is not me. I am New Beginnings Counseling LLC. I am located on the east side of Madison, over by the airport. Like I said, I do have an office. However, I am seeing people virtually right now due since the pandemic. Due to everything going on, there's major cold issues going on right now. COVID's going back up and whatnot. Anyway, I don't want to talk about COVID. Um, so yeah, I do currently have openings up for my private practice. I specialize in PTSD, anger management, stress management, anxiety, depression, addiction. Those are just most of the things I specialize in. Um, so I'm seeing people virtually via Zoom right now at the moment. Um, I do have a Facebook page as well for my private practice. Also, it's called New Beginnings Counseling LLC. Please like that page as well. I do post a lot of like mental health stuff on there as well, self care ideas. If you need to get a hold of me or want to get a hold of me to set up an appointment or have questions, my number is 608 571 3896. Again, that number is 608 571 3896. Or you can actually reach me with this number too. You don't have to just call. You can also use text as well. You can text that number again at 608 571 3896. Or you can reach me via email at tim at newbeginningscounseling at gmail.com. Just Tim, AT, New Beginnings Counseling at gmail.com. That's all one word. The at Tim at AT is not it's not the symbol at Tim AT New Beginnings Counseling at gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of me via email, there you can let me know what exactly is going on, like a brief summary of what's going on, what you're looking for, and all that. Um, so yeah, my private practice is New Beginnings Counseling LLC. I've been in the field for over 15 years, so I've worked all over the place. I've done inpatients, I've done hospital settings, I've worked in the jail at the mental health department. I've been in other private practices as an intern, and I've been in a nonprofit as well. I've done some volunteer work for domestic abuse, so I do have experience with that. So I do work with clients who have domestic abuse situations. I haven't worked with anyone in that area for a while, but I do have experience working in that. I do know the resources here in Madison as well. If there's resources needed, I'll definitely help you with that. Again, my practice is New Beginnings Counseling LLC, located in Madison. If you're outside of the state of Wisconsin, I can see you via telehealth as well. We'll do. There's ways to get around the whole therapy thing. It's called life coaching or mental health coaching. Coaching's more. We're looking towards the future, where therapy is the future and the past. So yeah, there's ways around it. Um. Anyway, I've been doing this podcast for a couple months now. I think close to like 12 weeks. This is my 10th week now. So every week I have a different topic. I'm trying to get more guests on the show too. If you know anyone, let them know about this podcast and have them reach out to me. Um, you can do that. My counseling email at tim at newbeginningscounseling at gmail.com. That's Tim, A-T, newbeginningscounseling at gmail.com. Or my personal email is badgerfan, BADGERFAN, 032480 at gmail.com, and have them reach out to me via that. Or again, reach me at my phone number 608-571-3896. They can text me and say, "Hey, I'm interested in being a guest. This is what I specialize in, and we'll set up time and whatnot to do a podcast." I can always interview that person, talk to that person, and then save it, and then do my other part of the podcast afterwards too. That's the cool thing about podcasts. They're not live for the most part, so I can record it anywhere I want pretty much. Take the equipment with me, and or like I said, I use Zoom for my guests as well and co-hosts, so I can just send them the link to the Zoom, and we can do it from they can do it from their home, and I can do all this from my home via Zoom. So that's work too. This used to be a radio show back in the day. At some I did it at the Sun Prairie Community Radio Station. It was also called Path to New You. I did that on Fridays for an hour, and I did have guests on there. And I'm looking at maybe getting bringing those guests back and do it on the podcast. Anyway, that's a whole story about my life and about my podcast. I want to talk about today's topic. I want to talk about burnout. Burnout. What is burnout? The causes of burnout, and what you can do um to not let burnout happen. My mind just went blank a little bit. Ways to prevent. Prevent is the word I was looking for. Prevent burnout. What can you do to prevent burnout? What is burnout? How it happens, and what you can do to prevent burnout. There's a couple articles I found that I'm gonna use a little bit of psychology today. I used a little bit of psychology today, quite a bit for my podcast. It definitely got a lot of good information on there. I like the definition and all that. So, what exactly is burnout? Burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. Though it's more often caused by problems at work, it can also appear in other areas of life, such as parenting, caretaking, or romantic relationships. So, there's a few things that could cause burnout. Burnout is not simply a result of working long hours or juggling too many tasks, though those some play key th- those play some key roles of it of burnout. Um, so burnout most often occur when a person is not in control of how a job is carried out at work or at home, or is asked to complete tasks that conflict with their sense of self. Equally pressing is working toward a goal that doesn't resonate, or when a person lacks support. If a person doesn't tailor responsibilities to match a true calling, or at least take a break once in a while, they could face burnout. as well as the mountain of mental and physical health problems that often come along with it, including headaches, fatigue, heartburn, and other symptoms, as well as increased potential for alcohol, drug, or food misuse. So, I'm a good example of burnout. That happened to me twice in my lifetime. Twice in my lifetime, I've been burnt out. The first time was when I was working at a juvenile group home. I worked full time there. I was working the overnight shifts from 10 p.m. to about 10 a.m. I was working 4 days a week. I worked there for about 5 years. And that person who was in charge of it, the director, he was good. I enjoyed working for him, but they're just so understaffed. It was crazy insane. I did have vacation time. I was trying to use every now and then. I couldn't because they couldn't find anybody to cover my shift because no one wanted to work my shift, or the extra staff they had other full-time jobs. So I was working a lot. I would have to come in earlier than a 10 p.m. Sometimes it'd be like a 6 p.m. I'd come in, and then I'd work until 10 a.m. the next morning. And then I get home. Of course, it takes a while for me to fall asleep. By the time I fall asleep, it's probably about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, the next, I'd have to work 10 p.m. that day. So I try to get some sleep. However, the boss, I'm not going to say his name, the boss would and call me about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Of course, I wouldn't turn off my silence. I should have put on my silence thing. I did not. So he would call, I'd pick up the phone, see what's going on. Everything he would ask me, I'm like, well, it's in the notes. Why don't you check the notes? And then I couldn't fall asleep. So then again, I'd end up going to the gym and working out, and there's times I'd be up for about 36 hours straight, burnt out. I did this for about 5 years. I finally had it, and I had to quit. I did find another job before then, and once I found another job, I quit because I just couldn't take it anymore. That is burnout. You're just to the point where you cannot work there anymore. You're so exhausted and beat. So that's a good example of what happened to me. Okay, so again, yeah, I didn't have any like over alcohol use or anything like that. Um, I didn't have any headaches. It was more fatigue than anything. I was just drinking caffeine and all that, to stay awake. So I did have heartburn and those gastrointestinal whatever symptoms. I can't read that. Gastrointestinal symptoms. Yep, there it is. I said it. So yeah, I'd be drinking caffeine and just trying to stay awake throughout the night because it was an awake shift. I could not fall asleep. I did fall asleep once and I got written up for it and I explained on what was going on. I'm like, and I said to him, "You're the one of the reasons why I am so tired. You're calling me when I'm trying to sleep during the day." It's like, "Oh, I'll work on it." Did he? Nope. Again, I'm not gonna say who that is. Anyway, yeah. So yeah. Um. So how do you exactly know when you're burnt out? Physical and mental exhaustion. Yep, I was both physical and mentally exhausted. A sense of dread about work. Yep, I did not want to go to work anymore. I was just dreading it. Like, here we go again. And frequent feelings of anger or irritability are key signs of burnout. Um, yep. So I was angry. I was just like so much anger and irritability toward the whole employer thing. It was just ridiculous. Those in helping professions, such as doctors, may notice dwindling compassion toward those in their care. I didn't get to that point. I never got to that point where I just didn't care about the clients or the people I worked with. At my second job I worked at a nonprofit and they were understaffed and people were calling in all the time. And I was at a hospital setting. It wasn't an inpatient, it was a hospital diversion program. I was burnt out there too. I worked there for about 5 or 6 years, working, different shifts, sometimes overnight, sometimes evening, sometimes morning. Yeah, it got to the point where I got burnt out there too. However, when I was working with the clients, didn't do anything. Like I literally helped the clients, and at that time, I was like, I'm helping them. They're here for a reason, and it's not their fault that I'm burnt out. So I would never put it toward the clients. The clients actually there loved me, and they did not like it that when I left. They'd stay there between 7 to 10 days, depending, sometimes longer. A lot of it's for medication changes, them being stressed out or depressed, suicidal ideation. A lot of regulars came. I mean, I would call them regulars, but they came. Some of them came quite a bit. There's like a cycle of some sort. And they didn't notice that I was getting burnt out and fatigued and all that. And I'm like, thank you. I really appreciate that you're noticing this stuff, but I'm here to help you. So, and they did not like it when I put my 2 weeks in. 'Cause they eventually the clients find out like something's going on. They do. Um, so what's the difference between a burn? I got a little off. I think guess I didn't really get off topic, but I kind of talked about my life, my situation of being burnt out. Um, so what's the difference between burnout and stress? By definition, burnout is an extended period of stress that feels as though it cannot be fixed. If stress is short-lived or tied to a specific goal, it is most likely not harmful. So some stress is good stress. A lot of stress is not good stress. It's not good for you. If the stress feels never ending and comes with feelings of emptiness, apathy, and hopelessness, it may be indicative of burnout. I mean, there's other types too. There's compassion fatigue. I'll talk about compassion fatigue a little bit later in another podcast. I mean, compassion fatigue is more when you're. I guess the thing would be you're more focused on the client than or the person you're working with than you are on yourself. So you're more focused to help others before you help yourself. And that's if you could feel like burnout, but it's not. Some jobs would likely cause burnout. Nursing, anyone in the mental health field or in the healthcare field, nursing. There's a lot of shortages of nurses, especially during the pandemic. There's a lot of shortage of nurses, and I feel for you, and I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. But there's a lot of burnout in that too. There's a lot of people quitting, just couldn't take it anymore. There's a lot of quitting, just yeah. Nursing is a huge one. So how to deal with burnout? While some work environments may be especially grinding, such as the medical profession or law enforcement, anyone who's running out of gas can take steps to ev- alleviate the deleterious, I can't even speak, effects of burnout, and if necessary, reevaluate their work life. To counter burnout, have a sense of purpose, have an impact on others, or feeling as if one is making the world a better place and are still valuable. Often meaningfulness can counteract that negative aspects of a job. Other motivators include autonomy as well as good hard challenge. Um, yeah, I got this article here on Psychology Today. Explains everything about burnout, and that's exactly the name of it is burnout. Um, so there are many ways to help you from getting burnout. It's another article I found here. Lighter workloads, more efficient systems, and greater support for mental health are sorely needed. So if you work for an employer, um, it's okay to say no. At times, if they ask you to do something, it's okay to say no. Yeah, you gotta those employers may not like it, but saying no is good for you. The more you say yes, the more they think you're gonna do it. So they'll ask you to do more and more. It'll pile on. That's another thing that happened to me. I was a yes man for the longest time. It's like, yep, I'll do it, I'll do it, and then everybody expects you to do it. So when they ask you, and they've asked me, and finally I'm like, I say nope, I can't do it, and they get all mad and upset. And I'm like, well, I got things to do, and I got enough on my plate already. Another thing you can do to prevent burnout: take your vacation time. If you have vacation time, if you work full time, you usually have a vacation time. Of course, you gotta ask for it ahead of time and whatnot, and most of the time they'll approve it. Even if it's a day or two, say you don't work weekends and asking for Thursday, Friday, and then you have Saturday, Sunday off. That's a 4-day weekend right there. Have those every once in a while, and then when you're not working, do a lot of self care. Self care is very important. Whether it's working out, just being outside, hanging out with friends, watching movies, going to sporting events, concerts, doing hobbies, whatever you're doing, that definitely helps from preventing burnout. Take vacation time. That's another thing I always wanted to do, tried to do when I was working full time, and I couldn't because they were so short staffed. I would not get approved, and then I'm like, well, here we go again. Mindfulness based interventions aid burnout. Again, that's another topic I want to talk about: mindfulness, being in the moment. Like for me right now, here I am. I'm in my spare bedroom and I'm looking around and my walls are, it's not purple, but it's like a soothing, I don't know what color it'd be. It's just soothing color. Looking around, I have my Peloton treadmill next to me. I have my Peloton bike in back of me, and just being in the moment, looking outside in the courtyard, it's snow on the ground. Being in the moment and just meditating. Meditation's another huge one that I've been doing a lot more of. That's another thing you can just prevent from burning out. Talking to other people who've been burnt out, like being a part of a support group, that's another one. That's a benefit because then you're talking to other people who've been in your situation or who are in your situation. And there you talk and about like what's going on, how to improve your situation, and everybody. The thing with groups, not everybody has the exact same. Not everybody's in the same situation. Like there's different types of burnouts, but then everybody's got different ideas. Hey, you can try. This is what I've been doing to help myself out. Hey, and the other person be like, oh, I've never thought about that. Let me try that. Other ideas going around in the room, especially in a group. That's one good thing about being in groups for like mental health stuff and peer support groups. So everybody's got different ideas on how to work on certain things. Seeing a therapist definitely helps. Yeah, you're like, what's a therapist gonna do to help me from burning out? Talking to someone about it, a professional who's been trained, definitely helps. For just talking to someone, say, hey, I'm going through a lot right now. I am burnt out. Nothing's going right. And the therapist may have resources to help you get through that, or then that therapist can help you point you in the right direction. Say if you're looking for another job or something, and you just can't seem to find where to look for a job, the therapist will actually help you. I would definitely help you if you came to me if you were burnt out. Since I've been there and I've done that, I've got ideas on how you can improve your situation. I got resources and know people who can definitely help you find something that's a better for you. Yeah, so I've been there, I've done that. A lot of the stuff I've been for my private practice, what I specialize in, I'm going through it. I've been through it, so I know what it's like when you're in that situation. I was actually diagnosed with PTSD when I was little. It wasn't because of the military. I'm a military veteran. It wasn't because of that. It was because of something that happened when I was young. So PTSD, depression, anxiety. I got all that stuff. That's also the part of PTSD as well. Um, like I said, there's many ways to improve your situation. Mindfulness is one of them. Being part of a support group is another one. Talking to someone about it, professional, or if you really need to quit your job, make sure. I guess first of all, make sure that you have another job lined up, which you before you quit that one. Yeah, you know what? You may quit it, but if you don't have another job lined up, that means you're going to be more stressed out because now you're going to be looking for work and you don't have a steady income coming in. Yeah. So I know I've been rambling quite a bit, but again, a lot of the stuff I've been talking about is stuff I actually been through, and I'm just talking about ways to help prevent burnout if you're not burnt out at the moment. Um, yeah, I hope this episode, you learned something from this episode. Um, yeah, I'm sorry I've been rambling on, but I'm just talking about like different ideas and what I've been through and helpful tips on how to prevent burnout. Um, again, if you, I guess, I'm gonna post this episode here shortly, right after I'm done, and then again, please like my page, Path to New You, Facebook page. Also, please go to Spotify, look up A Path to New You. You will find it. Hit follow. So when you click on follow, the Spotify will let you know, hey, there's a new episode up. And if you haven't listened to the other episodes, please do. I mean, a lot of it's informational. So there's, especially the first one I did was therapy, how to find a therapist, and I think the second one, I talked about um some, what was it, anxiety disorders, and then I think the third or fourth one I talked about how to get more out of therapy. So a lot of the stuff I'm saying is educational, and I hope you're getting something out of it. Again, please like my Facebook page, A Path to New You. Please like it. You'll find some helpful tips on mental health, self care, some ideas. There will be a link to this podcast as well. Every time I have a new episode up, I post a link up there. That way you can actually just click on the link and it'll send you to it, and then just click follow on Spotify. So that way, when I do have a new episode up, you'll know because Spotify will let you know. Also, if you haven't already, please like my Facebook page for my private practice, New Beginnings Counseling LLC. If you're looking for a therapist, and if you're out of the state of if you're not in the state of Wisconsin, I do life coaching and mental health coaching. So where I talk about the future, present, and the future, so I can actually work with you a little bit on that. If you're in the state of Wisconsin, um, my number is 608-571-3896. Again, 608-571-3896. You can call, leave a voice message, or you can text that number as well. I hope everyone had enjoyed this episode. And again, you're listening to A Path to a New You. Have a good rest of the day and be well.